Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Let's go.
Round one, fight.
Thank you for tuning in to the Crypto Street Podcast. Here are your hosts, Killer Whale, Prince, and Crypto Dale.
And remember to tip your waitress.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Crypto Street Podcast. As always, this is Crypto Dale coming to you from my flooded basement in Iowa, as we got 5 inches of rain today, and I'm sitting in my swimming suit in my basement. Always joined, as always, by none other than the Killer Whale. What's up, Killer?
What's up, man? It's good to be back home. We had an eventful weekend this past weekend. We're recording this on Monday, so we're fresh off of planes, fresh off of a couple of days of heavy drinking, fun, conference. Yeah, it was a great time with you guys.
Yeah, it was. Shout out to everyone. We were at Crypto CoinCon over the weekend in Philadelphia. Gave a little presentation and had a good turnout. I thought was pleased with. We did a live Q&A type thing with everyone. So thanks to everyone going there. Thanks to CryptoCon guys, and we were able to get Prince out of old Canada. So Prince, how was that experience for you?
It was an adventure. I wish I would have had more time to kind of motor around Philly though. I think I got to go back. So it was ridiculously humid though, but it was cool.
Yeah, you were saying that you're not used to that humidity, which is
wild. I'm in the West, right? Yeah, it's pretty dry up here. So,
well, good. Let's cut to the chase. We got a big guest tonight that we're all really, really excited to dive into questions with. Howard Lindzon, the co-founder and chairman, former CEO of StockTwits. He's written a handful of books: The Wall Strip Edge, StockTwits Edge, and The Next Apple, and then also 8 to 80. So, Howard, thanks for taking the time and joining us tonight. Thanks for letting us pick your brain here for a little bit.
Let's do it.
One thing, as we kind of always start off with guests, is we've seen some tweets from you on your Twitter that you're looking at crypto or into crypto. So, how did you get into crypto? What kind of piqued your interest with it?
Well, 2010. I met Yoni Assia. I was in Tel Aviv listening to startup pitches. I'd started StockTwits in 2008 during the crash of 2008, and spring of 2009 kind of launched. In 2010, I was invited to speak at a startup conference in Tel Aviv and wanted to go. Took my wife and I went. It's Startup Nation, basically. And one of the first presentations was a kid, Yoni Assia, who had founded a company called EToro. And we were blown away, my wife and I. I hadn't set up my funds. Back then I was investing personally. And we wrote a check. At the time, I had never heard of the word Bitcoin. EToro was a Forex social trading website. And I just loved Yoni's vision. And he started talking to me about Bitcoin. I think it was probably 10 or 11 cents at the time, telling me that this was the future of, and at the time, I don't know where he was pulling up a quote from, but I just dismissed it. And here we are today. Yoni is one of the kind of pioneers in crypto. Obviously, Tel Aviv has kind of been an early adopter and focused on the crypto space. But Yoni was the first person to mention it to me. And the money I invested in eToro, I've done well. eToro is an incredible company. They're in 140 countries and one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world now. But if I had to just put some of that money in Bitcoin at the time, I could have bought Iowa.
Yeah, you probably could have. But, if I'd have put it in at the same time, too, we'd have been in a bidding war for it.
Well, I would have lost it and probably felt worse. I probably would have had my money stolen along the way or forgotten the password. So I probably wouldn't have appreciated it. And I gotta be honest, I probably would have sold it at 40 cents, making 4 times my money. And so, again, I think, I don't know if I ever got the bug. I don't think as an American it's that easy to get the bug. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a geek. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm into the markets. So I totally get it from a trading perspective and from the angle of the markets. I have no real need for Bitcoin. I can understand a world in which Bitcoin has an incredible value, but figuring it out is not what I'm doing. We've made some investments in the space, but I'm neither bullish or bearish. I'm more a skeptic, but I'm really kind of excited about this bear market that we're in because from this rubble will come some real companies.
Yeah, it's this really cool financial experiment. I think that's the best way to sum up crypto. Nobody really knows where it's going to lead, but it might go somewhere.
Of course, it's going to supply demand.
Yeah,
it's greed and fear. So it's just like gold is a religion that was started. In year 8 of gold, no one knew what the supply really was, and there was no code. I mean, there was just what people believed and what was in the ground, and I think with crypto, we all want to believe that there's 21 million or whatever the number is. And we all want to believe that the forks don't matter. It's a supply demand thing and then fear and greed. Bitcoin is worth something because it's a digital miracle. But putting a value on it and then all the offshoots and all the token space is it's just a little over my pay grade.
I think it's good we have somebody who's skeptical of the space because we have so many guests who are just completely drinking the Kool-Aid, and we probably are too at this point, despite our best efforts. So what are some of the challenges you see to crypto or to Bitcoin? Maybe some of the aspects of it that make you hesitant to really buy in and really say, oh, this is undervalued or is going to have an amazing valuation going forward?
I mean, again, it comes down to I speak the language of markets. So I'm willing to, I think crypto, there's, I guess it's we're talking about different things. There's Bitcoin and then there's the tokens and the marketing and it comes down to, I understand why engineers are excited because I think gold's stupid. I don't own gold. I don't own silver. I don't wear gold. So Bitcoin to me is, a lot of religion involved and a lot of, it needs people like yourselves that are, I don't know what you call yourself, permables, but believers. Because nothing will get built if there is something there, which there is, right? Like I look at Facebook and I go, well, that's kind of like Bitcoin, except that they have to pay all the engineers and you can poke people and you can send photos and political statements. The only thing you can't do is send money to somebody, theoretically. And Bitcoin is really just Facebook, but the only thing you can do on it is send money. And what intrigues me about Bitcoin is they don't have their own. They don't have to manage any of the costs, or they don't have to get ergonomic elbow rests for their engineers. They don't have to pay health insurance. Like it's all distributed. So that's just fascinating to me. So that's why it's worth something. Is it worth $1 per coin or $1 billion per coin? It's going to survive me, but who knows what the hell it's going to be worth. I'm excited about trading it in the sense that it's human beings trade on fear and greed, and we're somewhere right now closer to fear than we've been in a long time in Bitcoin. But at the same point, I'm no smarter technically around what Bitcoin is than I was 5 years ago. That's kind of frightening. So it's something that most people will never understand.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I was thumbing through the Wall Strip Edge today, and one thing that you said in there that really caught my attention, and I think it really plays into the current market space now for the cryptocurrency is you said you should hunt for the next big winners from the all-time high list, not the all-time low list.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Maybe to someone that is a little cloudy on what the meaning behind that is.
Yeah, so strength begets strength, right? So human nature is to hunt for trash, like go
Mhm.
through the trash. From an
Yeah.
investing standpoint, even Warren Buffett, like I think everybody's kind of misdirecting each other, but everybody's buy low, sell high, right?
Mhm.
Most people have heard that in their lifetime if they invest. That makes no sense to me. So I've always lived by the mantra, buy high, sell higher. Meaning, I
Mhm.
want to own stuff that everybody already owns. I don't want to be the person inventing anything. So the way the markets work is, Apple and Google and Netflix. There's certain group of people that are waiting for these companies to stop doing well to the point where they buy them. Great companies rarely do poorly. And so you really never get a chance to own great companies at a cheap price, whether it's, Google, Apple, or whether it's a private company that gets away from you. So I like to hunt for good ideas on the all-time high list. And so stocks, it's how money flows, right? It's how rumors spread. Someone tells somebody in the stock market, great companies earn money, which attracts investors. And then the great companies continue to do well, whether they have a product or a moat, or whether they continue to earn money and attract further investment and confidence. And so great companies show themselves on the all-time high list. And that attracts investors, that attracts capital. And so, as a small investor, which 99% of investors are, the place to hunt for the next big winners are from the winners of the past. Okay. And so trying to predict the end of a great company is impossible. Trying to ride the coattails of great companies is a lot easier. So I hunt for my ideas on the all-time high list. How that relates to crypto, let's say, is what's the point? To me, it's a bear market. So I don't want to own, I don't want to add money to anything in weakness. I, as a small investor, want to invest when the tailwinds are behind me, when people are putting money to work. And, if the smartest people in the world are putting money to work right now into this carnage, great. I mean, that's because they understand the technology and they have inside network of engineers and they understand how all this works. I don't have that ability. So I'm waiting for when things strengthen up. And when things strengthen up and money starts flowing, the best projects will continue, will be overpriced as they are even in this bear market. And that could be Ethereum, it could be EOS, it could be just Bitcoin, it could be Zcash. But I would prefer to buy them when they're going up, not when they're going down, especially around assets that have no cash flow and are basically commodities. I don't want to be the person trying to predict when these things stop going down. But when the markets improve and if crypto takes hold for real, and the right companies and the right tokens and the right currencies start going up, as a small investor, then I feel more comfortable kind of checking which ones are doing the best and riding along with those. So it's a very simple philosophy of, the great ideas attract the most money. And I'm okay with riding on the coattails of that. I don't want to be the person trying to predict when things will bottom.
I've always kind of viewed crypto as some of the purer markets there are, just because we have such a tough time quantifying how to value these coins. I think it's very unlike a company like Facebook where you can say, oh, this is their revenue, this is their revenue growth, this is their expenses, how those are growing. And it's just way more difficult. And I think the tools to value cryptocurrencies in that manner will emerge at some point, but we're a long way off from that. So as a fan of markets, has that been something that's kind of piqued your interest about crypto, is sort of these just kind of pure emotional sentiment driven markets?
For sure. I mean, I have experience, so I can spot, listen, you only need to be better than, a few people, right? Like, so, there's a couple things. I don't I don't need to be the first person to panic, but I don't want to be the last person to panic. Same thing. And that goes on the selling and the buying side, right? So I'm looking for smart people and confirmation that something's working, right? And a lot of time that's just price. With crypto, to me, it's just price, right? We're in a bear market according to price. Every crypto currency, and every token is in a downtrend. And so the few that are in an uptrend right now, if there are any, and you guys probably know more than me because I'm not really actively looking for new ideas in crypto. That's interesting because those are showing that would be meaning they're showing relative strength, meaning money is flowing into these things in a bear market. So generally, when that happens in a really efficient market, like a truly efficient market, relative strength matters. Means the tokens and the currencies holding up best now are the ones most likely when the market turns to explode higher. Now, of course, there's outliers in all trends, but that applying that to any market works over the long term. It's not perfect, but applying the same strategy generally tends to work across markets. And the easiest way to apply my strategy across markets is just plain and simple price. And right now, there's nothing that I see in an uptrend. So there's no reason for me to be a hero and speculate on crypto. Now, for engineers and people that are really passionate about this and feel they have an edge around their knowledge base and their ability to spot and value the networks and the tokens, that's how people get rich too. I just don't have that edge.
I think there's something to be said, though, for the simplicity that you keep to it all, really. And I think, even through this bear market, there's been a lot of people who, probably look back and will say, yeah, I wish I could just, keep that simplicity, because it's funny, trading, there's a lot of easy ways to complicate it, but it can be a rather simple thing if you just, let it be.
Well, that's the excitement, what I love. So you're asking me what the moment is. This is what's amazing, is that we're probably never going to get interested in markets. So, and maybe you were. So, that's the joy that I'm excited about, is that this whole generation, whether this is a scam or real or a bubble or not a bubble, that's the kind of thing that's exciting. We've figured out finally how to onboard this next generation to this concept of markets, which is, they're not teaching this stuff in school. This is a universal language that, every corner of the world is infected with the crypto, bug. Some healthily, some not healthy. And you can't create markets if people don't understand markets. So you guys, there's a whole generation of kids that are like, would never trade a stock and now feel like they've got the bug. And so, this is great for markets. And that is, what if Bitcoin only did that, that's fantastic.
So do you think that some of that interest, even though a lot of it may be superficial, will translate into actual tangible results with some of the coins? Take like a big ICO, for example, where they might raise a ton of capital and not really have a product, but because they raised $200 million per se, that gives them the resources and the attention and the press to kind of build something that actually does help. Or is sort of a revolutionary or a novel technology?
Well, I think that's why sophisticated people, we make fun of the people that are kind of bearish and poo-pooing the whole idea. This is why it was a bubble. Those fuddy-duddies were right. No business needs $200 million. No software needs $200 million. So that is a sign of a bubble. If you can't, so cap table matters. Whether it's crypto cap tables or token cap tables or stock market cap tables, or whether you're a startup. If you mess up the cap table, you're fucked. And you have a million ideas that have fuck cap tables. Meaning, if no company should take 200 million in their first whack, or 20 million. What's great about startup investing that really took hold in 2008, 2009 after the financial bubble was that efficient deployment of capital. Everybody was nervous. So, hey, if you have an idea, the valuation's $2 million, we're going to take 30% of your company and go prove something. And if you prove something, we'll figure out how to raise more money. Flash forward to 2018, and you have companies raising $200 million. How is that good? It's just not efficient. And so God bless the people that pocketed that money, but I'm not going to get near any software company that needed 200 million to start. I don't care how big the idea is. I'd rather trade Apple. So I think
Yeah.
this is the danger of that. Is like, okay, this is like the Facebook story. Everybody thinks they could be Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, and we see how many people are Mark Zuckerberg. Nobody.
Yeah.
Even Mark Zuckerberg can't be Mark Zuckerberg, right? He's hated. So it's like a trap, right? Those were the telltale signs that this was a mess. Combined with no regulation, combined with the global market, combined with I still can't understand passwords, and you're talking about like 9 different languages. You're trying to teach someone who even understands markets to buy their first Bitcoin. So this was doomed from the beginning. But at the same time, I'm price driven. So I wasn't, I sold early. I sold at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,000 and looked dumb for a long time. And now every time you buy it, it seems like you're buying it too early. So in this type of market, you want to be like a velociraptor. You want to probe, but you have to have real capital to own things that are in a bear market. And again, by bear market, I mean price driven. Forgetting tech fundamentals and everything else, we are in a bear market, and bear markets are terrible places. Those are times you protect capital. For 99% of investors in a bear market, which we are definitely in crypto, you are in protect capital mode. Now, if you're a gangster and engineer and you see the future, okay. But if you're not, which is pretty much the truth, you need to wait for the bear market to end.
I think that's crucial too, because a lot of people, like especially on crypto Twitter, keep saying, buy the dip, buy the dip.
Buy the dip. That is the most awful advice. And I'm not saying I believe buy the dip on Tencent that's down 30%. I mean, forgetting that with these great public companies, we can't value them either because they themselves are networks. So good luck telling, some analyst with like 9 degrees in economics and engineering going to try and explain to me Tencent and what that company is worth? No, it's a joke. That would be like someone trying to explain to me what Bitcoin is. These companies are too big to measure. So in a way, the market's become like crypto too. The great companies, it's all a guessing game. You're just trading against everybody else. So, but at the same time, price, you asked about simplicity. The reason price matters is because it is the easiest way to build a model. It's not perfect, meaning you're going to have lots of false signals. But I'd rather buy Bitcoin at 12,000 on its way to 50,000 than at 6,000 on its way to 3,000 on its way to 50,000. I will give up the bottom, trying to guess the bottom, for catching a bigger piece of the uptrend. And that's just a philosophy. It's not right for everybody.
Yeah, and I saw I think it was the Wall Strip you said, reference, everyone's trying to find the next Google, but what if Google is the next Google?
Well, exactly. What if Apple, as it proves to be, continues to be the next Apple? Everybody thought Apple was dead. But in this environment where no one trusts anybody, Apple doesn't own a social network, other than iMessage, hasn't done anything to truly, they got slaves in China and all their problems, and there's always reasons to hate Apple. Yeah. But they're so big that they're hurting somebody. But at the same time, relatively speaking, Apple's never been better. So what's working may continue to work, and that's the philosophy that I go by. And until I'm proven wrong by price, and that's where just basic rules, whether you're trading Bitcoin or penny stocks or the highest momentum stocks like the FANG stocks, you have to have a strategy. And if you are not an engineer, I think crypto, you can only trade on price.
Yeah.
Another thing that you talked about, and I'm sorry, everyone should probably, in my opinion, read the Wall Strip that you wrote, but you talk about noise a lot and how when you're trading, you need to eliminate all the noise. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are young. So my generation, I'm 52, almost 53. We grew up watching TV. So we just okay, whatever CNBC's serving up, those are the experts. Well, we knew that was bullshit, come 1999. And, it only took us 20 years to figure that out. But at some point when CNBC started, it was a great idea. Same thing with social networks. When they started, it was like, oh my God, I can find the experts and follow just the experts. And which is still much better, even with all the spam, et cetera. Social networks are beautiful developments in markets because you can create your own network. You can find the experts in every one subject. So whether it's knee surgery or crypto, there is somebody on Twitter or one of these social networks that is the true definitive expert. And there's enough experts that actually care about educating and sharing their ideas freely that you can find great signal in that. And so that is a fantastic development. Meaning, you know, there's a saying that I heard somewhere, and I just have stolen it and passed it around, and everybody likes. There's no such thing as information overload, just filter failure. So noise is there. It's up to us as investors and traders to filter that noise and curate it to the point where we have our playlist. These are the 8 people that I follow, and I follow them into battle all the time. They're right more than they're wrong. And until those guys tell me, because I can't be an expert in everything. So whether it's crypto, if Fred Wilson's bullish on crypto, well, I'm not going to second guess Fred Wilson. He could be wrong, but I'm not going to second guess the guy. Guy was doing or Yoni Asia at eToro. I'm going to go to my playbook, and my playbook is, when those guys get bearish, I'll throw in the towel. In the meantime, I don't need to ask Fred, what does he think about Bitcoin every day? I can read his blog, and he's nervous, but he's obviously bullish on the industry. And so why am I going to second guess him and Chris Dixon and people that have made money in this industry and are not, are promotional within the boundaries of what's acceptable and what they've done in the past and their reputation, and they're putting their reputation on the line? I don't need opinions from 9 million people. I definitely don't need opinions from TV. And it's not like Fred's gone in hiding. Like, his opinion hasn't changed. He thought things were overpriced. We all know, if you have any common sense, that things were silly by just looking at the data.
Right.
And if Fred throws in the towel tomorrow, this podcast would sound a lot different. If Chris Dixon throws in the towel and goes, "Fuck, I was wrong," I'm not going to argue with Chris Dixon. I'm going to wonder why he changed his mind. And then I better have an edge over Chris Dixon, or I better be throwing in the towel the minute after he throws in the towel, or it's going to be a lot of pain.
So one thing I want to elaborate on that, and then I swear I'm done, and you got other guys can ask.
But does that explain to you noise? Like, noise is everywhere. It's up to us in this era to find smart people and follow them.
Well, and then one thing to kind of piggyback on that, you mentioned that happens a lot on crypto Twitter for newer people is if, like, say someone puts a chart out there and says, entering Tezos here, this is what I'm seeing, blah, 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 nonsense. Everyone always asks, price targets, sir. And you mentioned that in this book and say price targets should be banned. And then you went on to say, I don't trust people who issue price targets. So let that be a lesson to everybody.
Yeah. No one, listen, I think directionally is important. And so there's 2 things that are important: direction and skin in the game. Okay. I think skin in the game goes away because of Twitter. Like, I don't care if you have skin in the game. I care if you're smart and if you've been right in the past, and are you consistent, and so I don't care what you look like, smell like, how tall you are, what color your skin is. If your ideas are good, you're going to surface in StockTwits or Twitter. Okay. The next thing is, my money's my money. I don't want you responsible for my money. The reason I love StockTwits, the reason we built that out from Twitter, and Twitter never understood this. Twitter is, turned themselves into some kind of media company when they're really just, a platform for ideas and sentiment and news is, I only care about, what you expertise is. As soon as you tell me in certainty that this is my price target, I immediately stop trusting you. How do you know more? Like, just tell me what you're doing consistently, and then tell me when you stop doing it. If you consistently do that, I trust you, because I don't care if I don't care if you have money in the game. If you really are an expert in something, you may not have money, but you still could be an expert in it, whether it's copper or Apple or Bitcoin. And so if you're putting your ass on the line with your ideas and trying to build a reputation, that's great. I don't care how much money you have in the game, because it's pure. You're putting your reputation on the line with your idea. And so price targets make me nervous because things have a tendency to overshoot. When momentum takes hold both in positive and negative directions, once things start flowing, anything can happen. That's just how momentum works.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care about price targets. So hopefully that helps.
I kind of was chuckling when I read that because it's probably one of the most asked things on all Twitter, crypto Twitter. So say is, aside from when moon, it's, price target, sir. So.
Well, I believe in technical, right? Like I call it charter. Like price is a snapshot of, so if there's 1 million people trading Apple or Bitcoin or whatever you just mentioned, the token that you just mentioned, the price, the chart of that is a snapshot of what everybody that owns that at the moment is thinking. Now, it's not, you can't get inside their head, but that's what everybody's willing to buy and sell that asset at that moment in time. That's beautiful. That is like art. And so, that is a starting point to a rabbit hole of hell or a magical, point in time. Meaning, that to me is something I trust, price, right? And at least in the crypto markets, we've evolved enough that there's enough of a market where there is prices and volume and charting and a way to contextually see how things are doing relative to other things in real time. That is beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's up to each and every one of us then to do our work from that point. So we've gotten to the point where at least there's a market for a lot of these things. That's a huge, that bubble created, mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing. And the next question is what's next? And we need some utility out of that.
Yeah.
For it to get to the next level. And it's hard for an American when Visa and MasterCard exists and cash still kind of works. Mm-hmm. Millennial, my kids have a debit card and if as long as I'm alive and they can in an emergency get money from me over Venmo, Bitcoin, my kids don't care. Mm-hmm. So Americans are at a disadvantage. This is another big, the world works a mysterious way thing. This is another dagger in the American the empire of America is if you do believe crypto, and I do believe in crypto, I do believe that we need a backdoor currency. We're at a disadvantage in America because we don't fucking need Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like I got Visa, MasterCard. They work pretty well. But if you're in Venezuela and you're an engineer, you have a massive edge because it makes total sense to you.
I found it very interesting that you mentioned Fred Wilson and Chris Dixon because coming from the equity markets, that was one of the first things that really made me buy into crypto. Was when I first got involved, I thought, oh, this is garbage, but I can make some money trading it because it's really volatile and it's not beholden to earnings reports and balance sheets and things like that. But then I started to see firms like Andreessen Horowitz, countless others that have been heavily invested in this space, and that really sold me on it. Was that a similar experience to what you had? Because you have extensive experience.
Yeah, I think
as
on
a venture capitalist, right?
Definitely. I in real time, like when Yoni Assia mentioned it to me, like there was no reason. He was running a startup. So I'm like, dude, focus. Like, what are you talking to me about? Like you're trading the yen dollar. Stop talking to me about this Bitcoin thing. But now he's the expert. So like he'll be somebody I email, when Bitcoin dipped below 6,000, are we going to hell? Like he hasn't responded, but at the same point, why would I ask anybody else? Mm-hmm. So yes, I remember when I truly got interested in Bitcoin. It was when Fred Wilson invested in Coinbase or started talking about crypto himself. And by then crypto was like over $100. Bitcoin was over $100. And this is the thing about trends and momentum. Can you imagine? I laugh at all the Bitcoin. This is before Bitcoin was even popular, but people were talking about it on Twitter. People talking about Bitcoin being overvalued at $1. And maybe it was. But the point was, Fred Wilson, one of the best venture capitalists in the world, was putting his reputation and money on the line, which he does. That's his job. And then writing about it. Imagine the ridicule he got. To me, it was the opposite. It was like finally someone that I trust is putting some real money into this space. I don't care how far it's come. I'm in. That is the leap of faith. That's the hardest leap of faith, is missing the first bajillion% in a move.
Oh, yeah.
So again, it goes to back all-time highs. Apple, maybe the
yeah.
next Apple. By then, all the people that bought Bitcoin at 11 cents were probably laughing at Fred Wilson. Finally, you idiot, you're getting aboard the Bitcoin trend. But that was when the real money actually started to happen.
Mhm.
And I was writing about it back then in 2013. I was calling it a Jurassic Park of currencies. And I didn't even know what I was talking about. As long as Fred was willing to put his ass on the line, I wasn't going to like stand in front of that. So I believe, like, one of my thesis around investing is, and, eventually Fred will stop doing this. And Chris Dixon and Albert at Union Square also now is one of are probably the best, clearest thinkers on all things investing, even though they don't trade public stocks. Is if it's early enough for Fred, I don't want to be before Fred Wilson or Chris Dixon. That makes no sense for someone like me. But if they are interested in it and putting their hard-earned money, and J.P. Morgan and Warren Buffett think it's a joke, that's a pretty good area for almost everybody else to try and make a buck. Meaning, they could be wrong, and they could be hyping something. It was, again, why it's hard to get into my network. It's like my network of people that I trust is small and always curating it. But at the same time, if it's good enough for Fred and Chris and Warren Buffett and JP Morgan think it's a scam, there's a lot of still opportunity to make money. So I don't need to be ahead of those guys. I definitely am excited if Warren Buffett thought it was a great thing, but it would be more late stage if, once JP Morgan and Warren Buffett start getting excited about things, it's a little bit later. Yeah. Meaning, if there's a big chunk of a trend that's in between what I call Fred Wilson and Chris Dixon and Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon. And that's kind of where I hunt and fish.
I find it good just hearing you bring up Fred Wilson a lot, because he had put out an article back at the end of last year about just, don't be scared to take some profit. And it was kind of about his memory with the .com bubble and the crash, and how he had gone through that, and he had lost about, I think it was like 90%, he said. And that was his first like big experience with a drawdown. And like that article, I remember it saved my ass, because I was, at the time 100% in crypto, wasn't thinking about getting anything out. But yeah, that article really did save me.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people. I was in November, December, I was every day writing about, come on, it can't be this easy. People are, and so I was selling, and it looked really dumb for a couple months. I remember selling Augur at 40 after it went from 20 to 40, because I had met Jeremy and I was like intrigued by the platform. But and it went to 100 for about an hour. But now it looks smart that I sold. Like you have to be respectful of markets. Yeah. So, for the few people that are going to be billionaires, God bless them, but the rest of us are small. You've got to stay in the game, and you've got to respect the markets and respect real gains. 100% gains in 3 months is not something to be sneezed at. Yeah. And just because you made 100% does not mean you're smart. It's the markets are good. And the markets can take this stuff away pretty quickly, as we've seen. Yeah. So I think, again, these are all lessons that was good. Like the fact that these were all squeezed in about a year is pretty damn good lessons. The internet bubble trapped people like 4 years of thinking they were geniuses before it took their money away. Crypto was like an hour. Yeah. So
that feels like 4 years in real life.
I know it does. And it's horrible that it happened. But like, I don't know how you teach people. Like the only way to teach people is if they make and lose money. And there's no real lesson if you haven't made or lost money.
I have a question. So one of the most compelling arguments I see regarding the valuation of crypto is as a replacement for offshore assets, gold, yada, 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 Cayman Island bank accounts. And if you look at that market, let's say conservatively, that's a $5 to $10 trillion market. And crypto is probably a better fit, given it's more autonomous. It's more hidden if you're using a privacy coin. Do you buy into that narrative at all, or is that something you have issues with?
Well, I buy into it at some level. I buy into it the level that Fred and Chris and Andreessen and smart people that are long are long. I'm semi-wealthy. I'm a thousandaire, and I still haven't needed any of those things from the old market. I still don't need gold. I still don't need offshore accounts. But who really needs this stuff? So if we get to that point, you will have gotten rich being long Bitcoin. But in the meantime, if it goes down 90% more on its way to what you're talking about, you will have been killed before it matters. So I think it always still comes down to like protect the family jewels and the family nest egg and know your risk appetite. But yes, directionally, I think Bitcoin is going a lot higher. Your time frame wise, I would not be surprised for it to go to, $1. I mean, I definitely don't think it's going to go there, but like, there'll be a lot of I told you so will trend many times on Twitter if that happens.
Oh yeah.
And so I think, the easiest thing for people to do is to follow smart people. The second easiest thing to do is for people to develop a real strategy that like helps them find meaty moves in markets, even ones they understand, or especially ones they understand, but so they don't let their own hubris get in the way of like, what happens in markets, and then let the markets do their thing.
Perfect.
And if you love crypto, you're sure as hell going to love stock markets because it's much easier to understand contextually why stocks move.
Yeah,
because there's cash flow. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but man, if you got the bug from crypto, go buy 10 stocks.
I think that's the thing we've seen a lot of people moving into.
I was just going to say that too. Yeah, a lot of people are.
But that's good because
absolutely.
Guess what? We're going to need those people because eventually the boomers are going to sell all their stocks and die.
Yeah.
The markets are supply and demand. Like this stock market is going to evaporate one day because eventually people that are dying are going to want their money back in cash or hand it off to their kids who are going to sell stocks. Like not all, like the same thing with the S&P. Everybody's like, oh, safe.
Yeah.
The S&P is not safe. There's risk in stocks. I mean, is it safe relative to Bitcoin? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But is it safe? No.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is, crypto's 24/7, 365. So I think people, hopefully get to hit their number someday. And then I think you'll see a lot of them transition into the stock market where it's, not as volatile and it has its,
you can go to sleep at night.
Yeah, you can go to sleep and whatnot. So,
well, the best investors of all time compound their money at 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
So what's the rush? Okay, so you made 800%. You basically now just need to make 10% the rest of your life.
That's exactly right.
So again, it's greed and fear. Like you got to manage your own emotions. Crypto is just a tool. And from a technology standpoint, I'm not the guy to talk about it. Naval, I said, Naval, Yoni, Fred, Chris, people that were in it well before me. And there's thousands more people. I'm just using them as examples, but everybody has their own trust network, and crypto is about that. It's about a trusted network.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's the lesson here. How old are you guys?
Oh, I'm 23.
23, dude. I was like picking my nose, like skipping classes. You guys are like way ahead of the game. 23, I didn't even know what a stock was. You guys have already fucking made and lost money. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it's
that's the new Chinese. Like this is the new Chinese. Like how many fucking idiotic millennials went and learned Mandarin? Well, they could have just learned the language of the markets.
Yeah.
What the hell's Mandarin? So I'm going to go work in China? I'd rather just work in Iowa.
That's right.
What's the only language you can speak in Iowa? English. Or markets.
And we're prominent.
And you speak both of them.
That's right.
You speak both of them.
There we go.
So the faster you get fluent in your native tongue, and then the markets, that is the lesson.
That's great. Well, I think hopefully everyone listening has learned a lot of lessons. I know we have, and it's really good to get someone with your experience.
I know what you meant to say.
I didn't come out and say it though. Someone great with your experience and your perspective. So from all of us, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come in. Very valuable. I really recommend everyone listening to this to get Howard's book, the Wall Strip Edge. Check it out. It's, I thumbed through it a little bit today and there was a lot that I learned. So Howard, thank you very much again for being on. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys. And so I write daily, howardlindzon.com. It's easy to find me on Twitter and StockTwits. Just use my name, search it, but you can subscribe. I have a free daily blog about trends and markets that people can subscribe to, and I hope that helps.
And you're welcome on calling out your hobby today that made you update your website too, by the way.
Exactly. Dude, the kids are gone.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for listening. Tip your waitress. Take care. Stay safe. Peace out.